In this video, I will cover the basics of simple probability. Steps for calculating simple probability. I want to use an example using this jar shown to the right with some different colored marbles. And the example question is, what is the probability of selecting a blue marble from this jar? So the first step is to count the number of possible successes, we call them. A success, in this case, is a blue marble. So I see 1, 2 blue marbles. Second, count the total number of possible outcomes. This is simply the number of things that we could select in the case of a jar. Now, we want to count the total number of marbles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 8 marbles in this jar, so that is the total number of possible outcomes. Then we simply make a ratio, the number of successes on the top of the ratio over the number of total possible outcomes. That would be 2 over 8, or 2 to 8. However, with probability, we always want to try to reduce that ratio if possible. We reduce that ratio just like we would a fraction. You can use the calculator to do that, or it may be obvious to you that 2 over 8 reduces to 1 over 4. That's it. That's all there is to simple probability when there's only one event involved. A second video will cover what we need to do when there's another event. Let's look at 3 example questions here. So the first of which is, we have Angie and she is spinning a wheel. What is the probability that she spins an odd number? So in this case, we need to recognize what the odd numbers are on this spinning wheel and count them. Number 1 is an odd number, as is number 3 and number 5. It looks like we have 3, and we'll call that successes over outcomes, or total outcomes. We have 3 successes. And the number of total outcomes for a spinning wheel is simply the number of spaces on the wheel. Now, it is important that these are evenly spaced, and they are. And we can see that there are 6 evenly spaced segments on this wheel. So it's 3 out of 6. But we don't want to leave it as 3 out of 6 if that can be reduced. Hopefully you recognize that the fraction 3 over 6 can be reduced to 1 over 2. And that would be the answer to this question. Let's take a look at a second one. Barney mixes up the cards below and gives one to Fran. What is the probability that the card will be marked with a plus sign or a circle? So what this question is introducing is this idea that we may be looking for one thing or another thing. These are both considered successes. So we can just circle all of them. Let's first circle the plus signs. 1. It's like we have 4 plus signs. And how many circles do we have? We don't really have to count them separately. We just have to make sure that we're counting them all together because they are all a success. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 are circles or plus signs. So the number of successes is equal to 7. We put that on the top of our ratio. And the total number of outcomes, we want to count the cards carefully. It looks like there are 12 cards. So those are the total outcomes. And that would be 12 on the bottom. So our answer would be 7/12. We could try to reduce that, but we cannot. So that would be our answer to problem 2. Last problem. This one involves a dice. So the question is, Lucas rolls a 6-sided die. What is the probability that it lands on a number greater than 4 or larger than 4? Now, I think it's helpful with dice to list all of the numbers. so that we can see everything at once. The thing that can make these confusing is we only see 3 numbers here as we look at it, but we know that all of these numbers are on that 6-sided cube. Let's count the number that are larger than 4, greater than 4. Well, that would be 5 and 6. It's not greater than or equal to 4, so we can't include 4. So that just leaves 5 and 6. So our number of successes on the top is going to be equal to 2. And the total number of possibilities is going to be 6. The number of total outcomes is 6. And then we try to reduce that fraction. 2 over 6 reduces to 1 over 3. And that would be our answer. So, helpful technique there to consider when you're dealing with a dice, or as they say, a die, is to list the numbers and then use that to help you count the number of things that would be a success. There will always be 6 possible outcomes when rolling a die. All right, I hope that helps. It's time for some practice.